In this lecture, we're going to do white balance, custom white balance for a raw photo. Please follow along with Adobe Lightroom Classic CC Open and be sure that you download the additional resources of this lecture. So if you look in this lecture, there's going to be a zip file that's got the name LRM underscore 2018 1215 underscore 12 11 59. If you right click on that image or that zip file, you should be able to extract all. Once you extract all by right clicking and then clicking the extract all option, you'll see an image LRM 2018 1215 underscore 12 11 59. Should be a DNG file. Please note where that image is located. In my case, it's under my D drive Lightroom Classic CC folder, but please note where your image is located. Go into Lightroom Classic CC, click Library on the upper right, and then in the lower left, click Import. Once you've done that, you're going to have to navigate back to where you saved your image. In my case, it's under the Lightroom Classic CC folder here, and it's grayed out because I've already imported it. But if it wasn't, you would simply click to select, make sure there's a check mark there, and then in the lower right-hand corner, you would click Import. Once that's done, you should wind up with a dialog box that has you in the library module with this new image open. The image that we're working with is actually a picture I took of my color checker passport. You can find out more about the color checker passport at xrite.com and then just search for the color checker passport. Here's a picture from their website, and as you can see, it looks just like mine, bright colors all throughout the device, and what you use it for is when you're taking pictures, and it's particularly used in photography to make sure that you get accurate white balance and also color channels. What you do is you take a picture with your subject holding the color checker passport, and then the rest of the pictures, which should ideally be in the same lighting conditions, are done without the color checker passport. And then once you're in Lightroom, you'll adjust your picture to the color checker passport image and then sync that across all the others to get perfect white balance. So that's what the color checker passport is, and that's how you use it. I'd recommend that you look into it if you're shooting professional portraits at any point, because white balance is a really difficult thing to do and get consistently correct, and the color checker passport really helps you with that. The reason we're using it in this lecture is because a lot of students have asked for a raw image to use doing white balance, so temperature and tint adjustments. So I've included this just as a way for you to be able to work with a raw image to adjust white balance, temperature and tint, and to see how it uses the Kelvin scale and not the plus and minus in the other JPEGs, so that you're familiar with how to do that within Lightroom CC. I hope that's helpful. Let's jump right back into Lightroom now. Go to Develop at this point, and we'll be able to work with this image. Once you're in Develop, I want you to make sure that Basic is open and follow along. Now this is an image, a raw image, taken of the color checker passport. It's fantastic for this lecture because it affords us a bunch of great colors and tonal ranges, from white all the way down here in the lower left to black on the lower right, skin tones on the top or pastels, and then primary colors below that. So you really get the full tonal as well as color gamut in this one raw image, which is why I'm so excited to be working with it. Now if you go under the basic panel here, under the Develop module, you'll notice there's a white balance selector. It looks like an eyedropper. You can use the W key or click on that icon in order to select it. What I want you to do is I want you to go to this first square. It's got the notch, the half circle notch out of the bottom, and I want you to click on it. And you'll notice that when you do, you should get a temperature around 6,000 and a tint around -25. You see, these squares here are custom targets for you to click on to get custom white balances. Top row is intended for portraits, the row below it intended for landscapes. Each one is colored slightly differently in order to give you custom white balances. Remember, white balance is a combination of temperature, which goes from cool or blue to warm or golden, and tint, which goes from green on the left to magenta on the right. What you should notice with your raw image open is that you actually get these values for temperature, 6,000, etc. Those are actual color temperatures, with the cooler temperatures when I slide to the left being lower numbers and the warmer when I go to the right being higher numbers. So let's go ahead and select this swatch again, this circle that's all the way to the left on the top row. And you'll notice that each time I do it, I don't get the exact same value because the pigment isn't 100% perfect and consistent throughout, but they are pretty close each time I do it. And what I want you to do now is to go all the way to the right here and watch what happens to the temperature and tint when we click on this right square. Well, you notice that we're at 7650 now and +1, that the image has become warmer and more magenta. If we now click right in the middle, that is the third over from the left, so 1, 2, third over here, and click there, we get something that's much more neutral, 7,000 for temperature and a tint of -13. What this is allowing us to do is allowing us to select these specific targets and change our temperature and our tint. The next thing I'd like you to do is to select this on the bottom row square with the notch, the half circle notch on the top. Click there and it'll be 6400 and -22 roughly. And now if we again select the white balance selector tool and we go to the upper left, I want you to notice what happens to those values. 6,000 and -20. Well, they're not perfect, but they are pretty close. You see, the way it's designed, these two are supposed to be the same temp and tint if it's a perfectly lit and perfectly printed color checker passport. Now we can go further to the left here if we wanted to under the landscape options and click there, and you can see now that we're at 5600, a cooler image, and -37, a greener image, something that might be a little bit more appropriate for a landscape. Well, that should give you a basic understanding, and now you've clicked and selected specific white balances, custom white balances for this image. I do want to point one thing out when it comes to this white balance selector. Now that we've got our raw image open, we've got as shot, auto, daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten, fluorescent, and flash. Custom is what we've been working in because we've been adjusting the temp and the tint using the white balance selector on these special target squares. Now here's what I would like you to do next, is I would like you to either use the temp slider, manually adjusting left and right, and the tint slider, manually adjusting left and right again, or the white balance selector tool here, or if you would like to, feel free to explore all of these different white balance presets. And what I'd like you to do is I would like you to find the white balance preset that gives you the truest version of the color checker passport, where the whites are whitest, the darks are still black and neutral, the skin tones look most natural in this top row, and the primary colors here look true and accurate as well. So that will be your assignment. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video and do that now, and then I'll walk you through the solution. And your next lecture in the course will be the actual assignment that will allow you to submit your image as well. So here's 5 seconds of silence for you to do that, and then I'll show you how I do it. Okay, well, congratulations. You should have paused the video and done this yourself. Let me show you a solution that I would have used. I'm going to go ahead and click on the white balance selector, and then I actually think that this second block over gives me the best version. The color tones for the skin tones here look great, primaries look just fine, and my white looks white and my black looks black, so I don't necessarily need to adjust much there. The one thing I might do though when it comes to that adjustment is I might push my blacks down slightly so that I can get a slightly darker black square over here. Now, if I take a look at the before and after, and I can do that with the key just under the backspace key here, where I can see before and after, and again, that's visible with the before and after dialog that shows up here. When I press and hold that key down, I get a before, and I release to get an after. But there you go. Here's the before unedited raw image, and here is the after version in which I think I get better tones, colors, and a better temperature. So here's what I do now that I have my solution. I'll go ahead and right click on this image to export, and then I'll click Export, select Export in the dialog box. I want to go ahead and choose specific folders so I can keep track of where I'm exporting to. I'll go under my D drive and I'll use Lightroom Classic CC, select folder. Feel free to export your image anywhere where you'll be able to find it again. I'll use custom name. Once under custom name, and I'll do the X of Y, I'll then just type assignment here, and it's already filled in, so I'll stick with it. Starting at 1, and in this case I only have one image I'm exporting, so what I should see in the folder I've selected would be assignment 1 of 1. If I now click export, I can go into that file folder system and see if it's there, and sure enough, here's assignment 1 of 1. I would then take that image and I would upload it as an answer to this assignment. But before we go, I do want to show you one last thing. So if you'll follow along by going under Library, Import, I want to import that JPEG we just created because I want to show you something. I'll go to Lightroom Classic CC, and there's the image. I'll select Import, and once I do, I now have this. This is the JPEG that I just created a second ago. I'll click the Develop module, and then I just want to show you that now my only options under white balance are as shot, auto, or custom. I've lost all those other white balancing options. And when I go to adjust the temp, I get a plus or minus. I no longer get temperatures. Here's why. When you have a raw image, you can take the data and apply an actual temperature to it, say 5,500 or 7,000 or 6,523, whatever. Once you've done that and you export under a compressed file format such as JPEG, the way we did in order to generate this JPEG image, that temperature is baked in. And you can still adjust the temp, but it's no longer actually adjusting the temperature of the image because Adobe Lightroom Classic CC doesn't know what temperature you put when you baked in the JPEG. So it can make it, a bit warmer by going plus or a bit cooler by going minus, but it doesn't know if that's 5,000 or 7,000. So it no longer displays the temperature. It only gives you an indication of how much you've adjusted to the right or to the left, warmer or cooler. And that's why when you go through this course, you may see in the future, if I'm working on a raw image, you'll see the temperature, it displays a temperature, but your slider may only display plus or minus if you're working with the JPEG version of that image. So I hope that helps you understand. And next up, let's go ahead and actually go through this assignment so you'll get to work with the raw image, export it, and then upload it as an assignment. Thanks for the feedback, letting me know you wanted to see more on white balance and raw images. Hopefully this scratches that itch. Please let me know what we can do to continue updating this course to keep it relevant and useful for you, and we'll keep doing that. Thanks a lot. Bye.